Namaste. You're listening to the Force Niyama podcast. Here we delve into the subject of yoga and reflect on the timeless teachings of Yogacharya BKS Iyengar with his most senior direct disciples. In this episode, I continue my conversation with Corine Biria, a devoted student and a highly regarded teacher of Iyengar Yoga based in Paris. You could listen to the first part of our conversation where Corine sheds light on her initial steps in yoga, how she found her life guru BKS Iyengar, and why she was full of confidence when guided by him. In the second part of the interview, Corine reflects on why it is important to work on the yogic path within regular life, and why Guruji never wanted his students to renounce the world, but face the reality and learn to deal with daily struggles as a student of yoga. We also explore why it is essential for a yoga teacher to be truthful about their personal practice at all times, and what was it like for Corine to walk on the path of yoga together with her life partner Faeq Biria. Svādhyāya is the subject of every minute, Corine says. It is a continuous wondering and examination of one's actions and behavior. I hope this interview will be a great support and inspiration in your yoga practice and in your own Svādhyāya, in your own study and discovery of the self. I read recently one article by Prashanji, and he said that it was Guruji's samskaras which got activated by some trigger and then pulled him out of the circumstances and the poor situation that he was in his childhood and maybe till teenage years. So it was, one could say, a fate, but still one could not only rely on the fate, one has to do very serious inner work. So I just find it fascinating.
You are absolutely right. Guruji didn't lean on fate. You know, his hero was Vishwamitra. It was his hero. This man who was a kshatriya and who became Brahman, a yogi at the highest level, due to his willpower, was the hero of Guruji. And so this hero proved how he was watching his own life, that we have to struggle. It is not a question of fate. You are born in yoga, so you can do yoga. You are not born in yoga, you cannot do yoga. Not at all. Vishwamitra was a king. He was not a Brahman. He was not a yogi. He became a yogi by fighting with the highest Brahman of the world, Vashishta. Fighting. Imagine, fighting. And this fire that Guruji had, he was using for his building up, for his way to reach God, to reach the ultimate freedom. Definitely. There was a fight, there was fire, but it was used for the right direction. We must not forget Vishwamitra, very important, because he was the hero.
So tell me, after visiting Pune, you said you stayed for 2-3 months every year, or was it more often, more frequent?
Oh, I mean, I don't remember. I've come so many times. I mean, I don't want to show off because I've come so many times and so long. I have stayed, when I was staying 6 months, I have done few at least 3 times. I stayed 3 months, once with my daughter. 6 months. I stayed 6 months. It is good because at that time you can really learn because you stay, you are taught, you can follow the therapy, you can really follow the classes in its evolution. It was very interesting to do like that. I don't remember, and I don't want to remember how many times I came. It doesn't make you by the number of times.
Yeah, of course. What I wanted to ask, how your practice back home changed after visiting Pune, and how did you? I'm asking because this is something that I could relate to. Like when I go to Usha and I stay there for 1.5 months, I try to stay at least, and I feel so lighter in my mind and my body after practicing with her. And coming home 1-2 days, I could kind of keep that spirit, but then it moves down. Of course, like I feel a little upset. Then I remind myself that I should not feel upset. I should focus on the practice and embrace the circumstances that are here. How did you encounter these moments of realizing that you could not perform as you did in Pune, and what kept you, motivated?
Well, when we go home, the material world comes to surface, obviously. You have to manage your home, you have to manage your work, you have to manage your family. So obviously you come back to a regular life, and this is your life. You have to accept your life as it is, that all this have to be handled. So the time you spend in these special moments with yoga are exceptional. But what is important is to be back to the regular life and study within this regular life the path of yoga, physically, philosophically speaking, mentally, emotionally. And this is what Guruji wanted. He didn't want us to be monk. He didn't want that. He wanted us to be within the life and work on a yogic path within our daily life. So it makes our life difficult to manage the two, because we would like to be always in holiday, spending day and night doing yoga with a teacher ready to teach us everything. No, not possible. This is a dream of child, but the reality is not that. And we have to face this reality and go ahead. On my part, when I was coming home, knowing that all this had to be done, besides, Guruji was giving enough work to study throughout. We were going home and we were studying the families of poses and the way of going into the practice more inside. All this he was doing for us. So there was no emptiness when I was back. Mm-hmm. No, I never felt emptiness. Mm-hmm. No.
And at what point did you feel that Guruji was preparing you to become a teacher? How did this moment happen?
I don't remember. I remember my husband asked him whether I could teach. That I remember. And one day it was possible. In fact, we got the privilege to pass our first exams with Guruji himself. He was in Paris. We were a small group, I don't remember, but 12 persons. And we showed our practice to Guruji for having our first certificate. And Guruji came to my husband, to Biria, and he said, is it introductory level or it is junior 1 level? Guruji, no, Biria said, no, it is introductory level. So we almost all passed. And the one who was the youngest didn't pass. He said after 6 months he can have his certificate. That's how I got my first certificate with Guruji. And it was very interesting because at the end of the session, Guruji took me for poses which are extremely difficult for me, the twistings. My body doesn't twist properly. And I still remember, I don't know, I don't remember, it was in 87, maybe, I got my first certificate, maybe. And at that time, he was teaching me how to do the twisting. It was very difficult. It was the end of the assessment. He was showing everybody how to do it. I still remember what to do in the twistings. I still remember. So it was a building up work of an assessment. And then we understood that when we have assessments and we give clues to the candidates, these clues, if the candidate has a proper mind, proper opening of mind, can catch these clues and work at home to improve himself. That's how that came to our mind after this assessment given by Guruji.
And how was the beginning of teaching journey for you?
I don't remember. My husband was going to India very often at that time. It was a very small class. I mean, it was not a big center. It was quite small. So I had to replace him for yes and for a no. He was always away, so I had to learn how to teach at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But where I'm really thankful to him is that he pushed me very, very early to teach pranayama. Often the people are afraid to teach pranayama because it is an unknown word and they are fearful. And he pushed me right away to teach. Obviously, I'm sure that at the beginning it was, but he pushed me to do it. Then I got the confidence because I got this work to be done very early in my yoga teaching. I'm really thankful. And now my own students, I really teach them to cross the fear of teaching pranayama. There is a fear because it is unknown. We can't see what they are doing, what is happening in this all inside. But for that, you have to practice pranayama. How can you teach pranayama if you don't practice pranayama? Mm-hmm. So teaching pranayama has to be done once you are a regular practitioner of pranayama. And then something can come if you help them to cross this line.
There is this moment that in Light on Yoga, I think in Guruji's book, Patanjali Yoga Sutras translated by him, he mentioned that the practice of pranayama should be attempted and should be done only after mastering the practice of asana, and not just mastering one asana, but all the asanas. At least that's how I understood from that book. How did Guruji recommend you back then to approach pranayama, and what was his guidance at that time?
So he doesn't say that you have to master all the asanas. If it is the case, nobody around you will do it.
Only him, only Guruji.
No, it is not at all like that. He says at least 1 year after practicing pranayama, after asanas, 1 year minimum to start pranayama. Why? Because your spine should be strong enough to sit, because the intercostal muscle should move, because the mind should be to some level little bit receptive. So all this need little of time, and this time takes at least 1 year, depending on the maturity of the students.
Has Guruji given at the time any recommendation on good qualities for a yoga teacher, how to guide the students and direct them properly so you could serve them better?
We can say so many things, huh?
Yes.
Guruji wanted us to be an example. Like he wanted us to be example. And not only in yama niyama, but also we regular teacher, teaching regularly to go to small or big groups, we should have a regular practice and not a casual practice. And not only asanas, but also pranayama. And there is a time, the length of your practice shouldn't be 1 hour sometime, half an hour another time. No, he said, if you don't want to rest, you have to practice at least 2 hours a day, asanas. 1 hour of pranayama. That was his basic line. So if you don't follow this, and then you say you are a big teacher, I say, sorry, this is not what Guruji taught us. If Guruji has still we put his name. Everybody puts his name, BKS Iyengar, fine. But until which point do you follow what his instructions? You have to practice. It is the first thing, very first thing. Practice pranayama, asanas every day. And then we can go in smaller, finer things. But this is the very, very beginning. So those who don't practice, we must not go to them. They are cheaters. They may be Iyengar Yoga, but if they don't practice, they are cheaters. And Guruji was hating the cheaters, hating. He wanted people to be true. And to be true with Guruji is difficult, huh? It is difficult because we want to escape the whole time. We want to escape. So let us be examples in our life and in our yogic subject. Then the students will follow you, will have trust in you. There will not be disappointment between what you say and what you do. You are what you are doing. This is the truth. This is our work as senior teachers. And senior teachers should teach that to our new teachers to be true. I would say that is the most important for Guruji.
Has he ever given a range on levels for teachers, like senior teacher, junior teacher? Was it even in his vocabulary?
Yes. It was in his vocabulary, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because the approach of the asana is different according to your level. A Matthew student, we could make out easily when we were practicing with him. The Matthew students, when he was telling you have to move the skin this way, the flesh that way, the bone this way, the student could manage, the practitioner could do his actions. The non-mature cannot feel. What is the difference between skin and flesh and bone? So when they don't feel, they don't practice because the level is less, you see. So the levels, yes, definitely, it is important. He couldn't expect the same from somebody who had a few years of practice and somebody who had a lot of years of practice. Definitely. And he wanted us to go deeper within, to be able to feel what was happening, the differences within ourselves. We had to weigh in our inner body the whole time. The detail, the penetration is according to the level.
For the students, how about the teachers? Like for him, obviously, all of you were students, but also you were his most senior students were also teachers. Did he ever use the word like, oh, he's a senior teacher, or she is a senior teacher, and she is a senior, or like junior teacher?
Yes, he was telling. Often he was telling, it depends. When it was in the hall, it was always For example, he was there. And she's a senior teacher, and see her pose. What is she doing? What is she thinking? And she thinks that she's a senior. Such things he was telling regularly. Or don't help this person. She is a junior. For example, yes, he was using this. But outside of the hall, for example, there were visitors, for example, from a country, any country. You say, yes, she is a senior teacher. You can go to her or you can go to him. Yes, he was using these names.
I want to ask you about the history of Yoga Center, Iyengar Yoga Center in Paris. What was the journey for you and your husband like? How did you establish it, and how did Guruji help, if he helped you on that path of promoting yoga in France and spreading the word about yoga in this country?
So there are two sides. Guruji asked my husband to manage to have an association, national association in France. At that time, there was no association, and to make the association needed little time. It was not so easy to make, because to unite everybody with different thinking is not easy. Was not easy and is not easy. And at that time, Guruji said to him, it was in 1984, he said to my husband, I want one association, one magazine, and teacher training courses. I want the three. He wanted yoga to be promoted and in fact, last time he came to Europe, it was in 1976. And he didn't come until 1984, because he could see that his yoga was not spreading properly in Europe in between 76 and 84. So he decided to come back to Europe in 84 for promoting again his method, his way of teaching throughout Europe. And this time, the yoga burst at that time. And Biria, who was very close to him, obeyed, did what he wanted, and that's how the things came well, I would say. And in France, the association opened its eyes in 1991, and we were having this small yoga class I spoke before. And then we found another place, because what happened is quite funny. This small place was too small, the students were many, and the things were not going right. And at some point we had to shift. And my husband let me watch in Paris a place. The first place I visited was the right place. And my husband say, what do you think about this place? I think it is right. And what do you think? I think it's right. I mean, we got the place like that. It was to be made. You can speak of fate at that time. This came to us, and it is still there. And Guruji came for the opening ceremony. So we put the board, Iyengar Yoga Vidyasthana, our place. And we invited all the pupils. It was a very, very, very beautiful ceremony, I would say. And then he came a few times in our place, and obviously the yoga developed very much. And Guruji asked my husband to travel, to spread yoga to other places around. So at that time, he started to travel more and more. And I had to stay more and more. At the very first year, he was very much there. And slowly, he started to leave France more and more. So I had to handle the center when he was not there. That means more and more too.
So you started as a small group of students back then in the beginning of, you said, 80s. What is the situation now?
No, good. The situation is good in spite of this big turning point of 2020, Zoom classes. In spite of it, I know many of my colleagues suffer because the students prefer to be at home, follow the classes at home. It's a big turning point. And for me, it's a difficult turning point, mentally speaking, because it doesn't fit with Guruji's teaching at all. Sorry to say, not at all. Guruji wanted to touch, he wanted to adjust, he wanted to watch. What do we watch on Zoom? I have 2 classes myself on Zoom, people which I watch myself. I see what they are doing, I follow what they are doing. But yet, what is the quality? We speak of depth, we speak of going inside. How much you can go inside by Zoom? Tell me. We can touch to some extent, we can touch the students, but for me, it is a help for those who live far, for those who cannot meet their regular teacher regularly. It's a good help, but it cannot replace. And those who replace, I'm sorry. We are going away of the yoga path. Very sorry. I forget about hybrid, which is worse. Because you don't watch either the people who are inside, either the people on the screen. You are nowhere. We are absolutely an opposite of Guruji's teaching. Opposite. He might have done it. I believe that if Guruji would be alive, I would see Guruji, once in a while taking Raya and Abhijata and explaining what he has found and sharing once in a while, but not on a regular basis. No. No. But once in a while he would do, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's a big change. It's a big change, not too big in my own center, not too big, because I don't allow the people who live around to be in my Zoom classes.
Oh, that's a
You have,
good recommendation.
you have to come to the center.
Mm-hmm.
You have to struggle. If you want a class, if you want me to adjust you, if you want proper teaching, you have to come. I keep the teaching for my regular students who live too far away, who can't manage to come for some reason to my place. Then in this manner, it works. But it's difficult for me to accept this situation after having learned so much of Guruji's way of teaching. It's very difficult for me. It's a passage that I cross very, very badly. Very badly.
I was in fact thinking of that. Would Guruji follow Zoom fashion and give classes online? I remember in one interview many years ago to some Russian media, a person asked him, would he ever give classes in TV, like a TV program with yoga classes? And he said exactly what you said, that, never, because, okay, they could see me, but I could not see them. There is no connection and no...
There is a connection, but a small connection.
Mm.
But this is a new word. This is a new word.
Mm-hmm.
So how to adapt ourselves to the new word is a question. I am split between all what we have learned from Guruji and this new word where it is easy way to do the things, easy to get money, easy to teach people who don't want to move from their home. Easy, everything is easy. And this is not, I mean, we have come to Pune in spite of all the difficulties that we were crossing, family speaking, professionally speaking. I mean, at all levels, it was difficult. Yet we were coming, we were learning from him, we were making an effort to come. Now everybody doesn't want to move, nobody wants to move, stay at home, there will be no traffic, the life will be easier. So this is Boga, this is not yoga. Let us speak of Boga. We can speak of yoga on Zoom, but until when, which point is it yoga? Is it not Boga?
What is Boga?
Comfort. Comfort. Comfort of life, easiness, laziness, well-being, all this is Boga. And the Zoom class is a good prop for those who live far away and want to stay in contact with their own teacher. I feel, I definitely. But this is a part of them. What about the others? You see? No, it's a difficult time. Maybe I'm too old. Maybe I should leave this world because I don't fit to this new world. That is also possible.
So now when Guruji is no longer with us, what is it that you come to, a book, a quote, a note, maybe not even an external object, that encourages you when you feel low and you feel like questioning what would Guruji tell you, or what would be his guidance in this difficult situation, like when he was there and you knew that you could totally trust him and there was a strong devotion. What is it that is helping you right now?
Good question. Right now, I'm studying a lot. I read whether for teaching, whether for studying. I'm studying a lot, especially Ashtadhala Yoga book, Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, mostly. My husband has left me with a huge library full of books about yoga and different philosophies. So it gives me a wide spectrum to study. So this is quite helpful because I feel, maybe I'm in Bhranti Darshana, but I feel that this is the right path to be done. This study, not only this study, yoga practice, pranayama practice, but this study is for me a steady ground for my own development and to face the daily life also, definitely. So then I come to the next point concerning the teacher training courses. Because these courses, I don't know why it has been put so much down, but I can make out how it is useful for us teachers to learn. We have to study the books. We have to refine our understanding. We have to hear what Prashant says, Srinit, whatever, Guruji. I mean, all these books we have to open, reread, reorganize, and then transmit again in our language. All this work is so useful, so building up. Why we put it down? Why? Is it a shame to do that? This transmission can be done only if we have swallowed it. We cannot, otherwise we don't transmit. If we don't transmit, we become lazy. Why to do the work? There is no inside impel to do the work. When we have our own students, that's what Guruji understood quickly. Why? You know, we all know that we are not high-level teachers. We might be called senior teachers, but in the depth of depth, are we really senior teachers? Think of all these yogis in this, suppose India. Let us speak of India. Let us think of all these gurus mastering yoga. Who are we? What are we knowing ourselves? So little, yet Guruji pushed us to teach. Why? Because by teaching, we learn. We learn to adjust our practice. We learn how to speak. We learn the subject more. Yet, whether we are junior, senior, whatever, we are not yet yogis. It's a reality. I might have this certificate. Do you think that I forget about it? No, I don't forget. If I compare myself only with Guruji, forget about the others. So to push us to teach others is what he himself did when his own guru pushed him to go for teaching in Pune. Then he was alone facing the pupils and managing the pupils. And we also somewhere, we go to India, he pushed us back home, and we have to teach our own pupils. So then we have to learn with the chance that Guruji was there all the time, that we were having any question, any problem. He was there to teach. He was not having, but we had the chance to have. So we could write, because at that time we were writing letters. He was answering. I had this of letters at home. And so we, like that, we could improve our teaching, we could improve our practice, we could improve our understanding. So once the teacher training courses came, the same. It was one level higher because they were already knowing the basic things, and we have to improve our understanding in philosophy, in yoga, in therapy, in so many things. So it is a chance. It is a chance for the students, but definitely it is a chance for the teacher. For me, the teacher training courses is not to be banned. It is a chance to refine at different levels of teaching our understanding, our vichara, vitarka, vichara, definitely. So this is my opinion. They have done, just this idea that it is just business is non-respect for Guruji's wishes first, because he wanted these teacher training courses to be there. It is also non-respect for those who have done it, because the purpose of it is to stay in the yoga path. But to spread everywhere that this is for business, that it is done, is disrespect, definitely. And those who, who emphasize on it are just ridiculizing those who have done it with a heart, dedication, devotion, and enthusiasm, definitely. We have to be very careful not to harm others. And this is not the way to do. Ahimsa is a yoga team, is a yoga instruction. So follow ahimsa. Everybody should follow ahimsa.
What was it like to walk the journey of yoga with your life partner, with your husband? How did it affect your own personal journey in yoga, like since you were two walking the same path?
You know, Guruji married us together. He did a marriage to us. And when he was marrying the couples, he was always warning the husband to let the wife practice properly. So I have not heard, but I know Guruji, and definitely Guruji must have told him that your wife is a yoga practitioner, let her practice, don't stop her practicing. So I could follow my practice very, very regularly, because my husband left me the space to do it. It was not obvious when I delivered at that moment, because my husband was always busy, and my daughter was yet it was a baby, eating in the night, day. I mean, you know how it is at the beginning. So at that moment, to have a regular practice was difficult. I was practicing at 12 in the night, 6 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. I mean, I was exhausted. It was, at that moment, I miss my mother, who is living, she's still living at 100 kilometers from my home. So that was not possible. And that moment was difficult for the practice. But otherwise, I could manage always my practice. I was very, very lucky. We were a yogic couple, for sure. He was having his practice. I was having my practice. We managed. When he was practicing, I was cooking, and I was running to the school to bring my daughter, came home, practice, then prepare food. Meanwhile, my husband was practicing. We were managing to some extent both together. And I would say I was very happy. I was not having the tensions of some couples who become jealous because we married to yoga. In our case, we were married, but we both were married to the same, to yoga. We were married our life was absolutely linked with Guruji. Guruji was everything for us. So there was no disparity, frankly speaking, no disparity. And I feel that it was my good karma this life. Now my husband has left me, so I have more time left me. It's no more. So I have more time for studying. And I take, once Guruji was speaking in the library about his life before and after his wife departure. And he said, at that time, I was very young, but yet I was listening. He was telling, my wife is gone. And at that time, he was telling himself, let me take the challenge. Let me take the challenge. God has given me a widowship. Let us take the challenge. Now, this is my case. Today, I'm a widow. Let us take the challenge as a widow to continue on the path of yoga. My life has no other purpose than this today, definitely. So I don't have, this emotional disbalance, most probably because I'm on a steady ground, which is yoga.
I just finished reading his book, Light on Life, and he has a big chapter on how he felt when his wife Ramamani passed away, and he said something that I loved her soul, so I never cried when she was leaving me. And a regular person would not be able to do that. So probably at that time he was so grounded in his practice, and he was so deeply connected with the self, that it was not something that could shake him. And he also said that if we cry, like, it's not the self, the Atman, but it's the ego, which craves certain memories, certain sensations, feelings.
Exactly. I remember the sentence you speak of, and the end of this chapter with his wife is extraordinary. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have one last question as a closure. As you know, this podcast, it's called The Force Niyama. And my idea was to emphasize the importance of Svādhyāya in our practice of yoga. What is Svādhyāya for you?
Svādhyāya is a subject of every minute. To know what should be done, what should it be, and how you evolve around it. How do you evolve about what should it be? So it is a regular wandering, whether you read, whether you sleep, whether you eat, whether you live. Not only because I study the books when I practice, but also in the daily life. There is always a wondering what is right. The rightness, it is not the rightness of, not only of discrimination, this is right, this is wrong, but also the feeling of rightness. Because when it is right, you know it is right. You don't need teachers to tell you that you are right. You know you are right. It doesn't come from your front brain, but you know in your practice, in your asana, in your pranayama, when it is right and when it is not right. When it is right, you know it is right. So this rightness can be felt outside the field of your yoga hall. It can be felt, it can be lived in the daily life, whether you are doing your shopping, buying your fruit or whatever. You know whether you are right or you are not right. I don't say that you are always right. I don't say that at all. But this Svādhyāya can be done at any time. This is how I live it.
Thank you. Thank you, Corine, for sharing your lessons and learnings. And
it's good to share all these thoughts openly.
Yeah, your students are very fortunate, and
I don't know.
I'm sure about it. Yeah, I'm happy that we had the chance to talk. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. You could listen to more interviews of other Iyengar Yoga teachers directly at the Force Niyama website or on the platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Pocket Casts. I welcome you to help me shape the Force Niyama podcast so that as many yoga students as possible can benefit from it. If you are an Iyengar Yoga student yourself and you have a specific question that you'd like to ask a senior teacher, feel free to share your question with me on the Force Niyama Instagram or email me at hello@theforceniyama.com. Thank you and see you in the next episode.